back to the Haney Biz Project with host Mark Haney.
All right. Welcome back to the Haney Biz Project, brought to you courtesy of Sun System Technology. I'm Mark Haney, and today I am joined by Lieutenant Colonel Tom Keegan of the California National Guard. You just got back from Houston, is that correct?
Correct. We were working out of Fort Hood, but we were providing support to Houston, Beaumont, and I think it was Port Arthur was another town down there in southeast Texas.
Can you give us an idea of the devastation that's happening right now in Houston? And then also, we've got more storms coming in with Irma on the way. What's it look like now? This is Thursday, so if you're hearing this out there, know that this is Thursday at 1:30.
Right. So, well, hopefully, the floodwaters, at least in the Houston, southeast Texas area, are residing a bit, and folks can maybe start doing some more assessments, and hopefully they're not in as much peril as they were immediately following the devastation that was Harvey. But when I was down there, looking at it from a helicopter pilot's perspective, much of the town was underwater.
Wow.
Not just in Houston, but and it was across all aspects, from $1 million homes to trailer parks to motels to business malls. Everybody was affected equally, and so it was really touching to see the response and how folks kind of rallied around that, and just took up whatever they had to save their neighbors, to work together and help out.
And when you think about what's happening right now in Sacramento, right? Today's the anniversary of, not today, this week is the anniversary of 9/11, and this is a special tribute to the first responders and the people that do so much to keep us safe in the homeland. But there's been some devastation right here in Sacramento with some officer-involved shooting, and obviously the death of a Sacramento sheriff. And it makes me wonder, as a civilian, what could I do? I always think, what could I do, and how could I say thank you to guys like yourself who are putting your life on the line for the rest of us? How do we say thanks?
I think it's just the acknowledgement. It's just simply that, right? Acknowledging their presence. If you see a police officer in uniform or a firefighter in uniform, service member, right? Just, take a half a second, look them in the eye and say thanks. I don't think they want anything more than that or less than that, but sometimes that's all they need to get through the day, right? It helps them stay motivated.
Yeah, and obviously you guys are motivated every day, the kinds of things that you see every day, and our law enforcement sees every day. It's usually, especially in law enforcement, people are called on when people are either sad, mad, or, it's a bad day when you get called in. But for you today, you live here in Sacramento. I want to get a background of your career, because you have you're more than just a guy that flew into Houston to help out with the victims of Houston. Can you give us an overview of your career and how it spanned over the years?
Sure. Yeah. I'm real lucky. I'm a local boy. Grew up in Carmichael. Went to Del Campo. Went in the Marines. After working on A4 Skyhawks and in aviation in the Marines for 4 years. I got out, I went to college, went in the Army, started flying helicopters, got a commission in the Army, flew for about 10 years, and then about 14 years ago, I went over to the Air Force and started flying combat search and rescue missions.
Couldn't get enough, huh?
It was just a calling. It was the next thing. It was the next thing in line for me, and so it just worked out really good. Timing was great, and I was lucky enough to be a part of an amazing unit out of Moffett Field in San Jose, the 129th Rescue Wing, and the men and women down there do great stuff, and I'm really lucky to be a part of it and be a part of their group.
Where were you at 9/11?
So I was my wife and I. I just bought a place up in Folsom, and I was driving into work to Mather. I was in the Army then, flying counter-narcotic missions for the Army out of Mather Air Force Base. And I heard the news as I was driving in, and my wife called me right about the same time I had heard it, because she was watching it on the TV. And so we spoke about it, got to work, and we didn't fly that day. But the very next day, it was really eerie. I went out on some missions, but nothing else was flying. So I was flying, and the only people that I was talking to instead of other air traffic were just a couple of air traffic controllers at the different airports or airports that I was passing through. So it was really weird to kind of see kind of that silence and that still in our national airspaces.
How did that affect you and maybe the trajectory of your career?
Well, I think it took a little bit to set in on how it was going to affect the country first, right? And then how the country was going to respond, and then ultimately how that was going to affect service members in the DoD and what was going to entail. Because up until that part, my whole career had been for the most part a peacetime military. We'd done some deployments, I think, to the Balkans, to Bosnia, and things like
Oh,
that.
wow.
But we hadn't done, any real kinetic operations like we've seen, of recent in Iraq, Afghanistan, and Africa. So it's changed quite a bit, and it's changed our lives quite a bit. But it was part of my life. It's what I had done to that point, and so it was like no doubt I'll keep doing it as long as they'll have me.
Well, you deployed to war zone. You deployed to Afghanistan. You
Sure.
deployed in areas that put you in harm's way. Can you give us just an overview of what that looked like? And maybe there's a story that has affected you that might be helpful to the rest of us.
All I could say is, it's humbling, right, to be able to. I fly search and rescue helicopters, and sometimes I do it in combat. And to be a part of a team that can go out and save folks that are in need is really it's great. And I serve because my wife allows me to. First off, right, and I love it, right. So I'll do it as long as they'll have me, as long as she'll let me do it, and the family will let me keep going. But it's really humbling to be able to give back to all the young men and women that are on the ground out there, doing the work for our country, right? To be able to go pick them up, when they're down at feeling down and they're at their worst. So
Yeah, you're picking up guys that are have been wounded.
IEDs, we're in the middle of troops in contacts or ticks. Oftentimes we're doing it at night under night vision goggles, landing to really obscure locations, brownout landings, and it. After a while, I don't say you get numb to it, but you realize that the folks on the ground need you more, right, than anything. So you go. We always go. That's our motto, right? These things we do that others may live, and those things that we do is we go and we stick our nose in, and we do our best to get whoever's on the ground out, keep them alive, and get them to a surgeon so they can fight another day.
Yeah. What kind of toll does that take on your wife? And you've got children.
They're pretty resilient, right? And I'm lucky, but I think it's part of the that's that dynamic. Our relationship is such, and I say that I'm allowed to serve because she lets me, but it really is. It's a partnership, and she knows, and she's a part of it, and she serves as much as I serve, right? Because she's a single parent back home here while I'm deployed.
Because you're deployed for months at a time.
You bet. And so we've got 20,000 soldiers and airmen in the California National Guard that do the same thing, right? All the time. Currently, we've got soldiers deployed to Jordan. We've got soldiers that are going to Afghanistan. We've got folks that are leaving tomorrow to go down to support Irma in Florida. Just got back from Harvey. We've got folks out fighting fire with helicopters. We've got 6 helicopter crews deployed here in our state.
Wow.
250 soldiers of the California Army National Guard are out on the fire lines. They're arriving on the fire lines today to work with CAL FIRE, with OES, and help put out those fires and protect, property and people and their livestock here in California. So it's an amazing organization. It's great to be a part of.
Well, you, in a just a matter of hours or days, are going to Florida to find out or to help on what's going on with Irma.
Correct. So my unit, the 129th, hopefully, all things working out, they'll get on some C-17s and fly down to northern Florida tomorrow to be in a position to support Floridians when Irma strikes. So.
And just in perspective, so the rest of us can understand, when you get ready to go do something like that, what kind of emotion goes through your head when you're saying, I'm going to go in, and this could be the worst storm in American history, is what they're saying. Is it trepidation? Is it excitement? What kind of mood are you in when you get ready to go do something like this?
Well, I think for the younger guys and gals, it's probably that excitement. For me, it's just the planning. Okay, what did we forget? Let's look at the last debrief and the last AAR, after action review. Look at the lessons learned from the last one, make sure that we don't make any mistakes that we made in the last time. So, having some compassion for the folks on the ground, making sure that we're doing that right and taking care of all those folks when we're over there. And again, just we can't afford to make mistakes that we've made in the past. So that's my thing as a leader, is make sure that we're there with the gear we need, in the spot, right time, place, manner to provide support.
Tom Keegan, I want to thank you for what you do for our country, what you've done in the past, and really what you continue to do, and for joining us on the show today. Very insightful, and I think it gives us all a little bit more perspective as we face this challenging time right here in Sacramento and right here in the good old US of A. When we return, we're going to have Dan Bout joining us. Dan is the Assistant Director for the Response for the California Office of Emergency Services. Join the revolution at handybiz.com. By our sponsor, Rockland Audi. This is the Handy Biz Project.